guys. So I hope you're having a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, or whatever time of day or night you're watching this video. Um, so I decided to look up the greatest love songs of all time on Billboard magazine's website, billboard.com. And I noticed two things. One, every song on their list had the word love in the title. And two, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts cover of I Love Rock and Roll was on that list. And I guess a love song about rock and roll is still a love song, right? But something that stuck out to me personally is that what I think is one of the most interesting and one of the greatest love songs of all time wasn't on the list. This song is interesting for a number of reasons. One, it doesn't have love in the title. And two, the word love never even appears in the song. I'm talking about Hello by Todd Rundgren. Now, I guess a little background about this song. It was first released by his progressive rock group Nas in 1966, or excuse me, 1968. 1966 is going to come up later in the story. And then he released it as a solo artist in 72 and then again in 73. Now those versions as with his progressive rock group and then as a solo artist are very different. The one he released with his group has more of a kind of a psychedelic rock group sound. And the one he released as a solo artist has kind of more of a easy listening yacht rock sound. If you've never heard this song before, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to, by the way, include links for all of these in the descriptions. And keep watching this for now, because when you listen to these, I want you to listen to them in a particular order if you've never heard them before. Because the first version of this song I ever heard was actually the 1995 cover by Groove Theory, which was Emile LaRue. And I should have looked up the other man's name. It was they had a single album that was released, but their version of it was more of a cover of the Isley Brothers cover from 1974, which may be the one that possibly most people today would recognize. Now, the thing that makes this song so interesting is that how it changed over the years. Because if you listen to the Groove Theory and Isley Brothers version of it, it's a straight love song. It's still unique though, still special, because where other love songs will just express I love you, different ways of saying I love you, this song I think expresses something which we all can relate to, and something we would all want to hear, and something that you don't hear very often in love songs. It first starts out by saying, I'm just thinking about you, that you just crossed my mind, which, think about how great that is. I mean, I kind of get like goosebumps even thinking about that, someone who you care about just telling you, I'm thinking about you. Like, that's one of the greatest feelings ever. You can imagine, I don't know about you, but you're thinking about someone, and then when you're sitting there thinking about them, and then they text you or call you and say, hey, I was thinking about you. And it just makes you feel warm inside, like you have that connection. And then the next thing it says is, don't change. Everything about you is perfect. Don't change a thing about you. And think about, that's wonderful, just for someone to explicitly say that, the things about you I don't want you to change, and they make me think about you. Now, that's a lovely sentiment, but that's not the original meaning of the song. So the progression of this song, if you go backwards from the most recent covers, and by the way, other people have covered. I think Erykah Badu and Andre 3000 may have did a cover, and but it goes from being a love song to being kind of a almost spite breakup song to then a love song again, but a love song on a much deeper meaning. So let me explain that. So if you listen to, like I said, the Groove Theory and the Isley Brothers cover of this song, it is a straightforward love song. If you listen to the original versions of the songs, the 73 and 1968 version of the song, one that Todd Rundgren produced or released as a solo artist, and the one that he released with his band, even though the music is very different from the two, the arrangement of the lyrics, I'll say, the words, it all of a sudden has kind of an underlining meaning. It becomes one of those songs that when you listen to it, it sounds like it means one thing, but if you listen carefully, it means something else. Listen carefully, and all of a sudden you realize that it's a breakup song. That the person singing the song is actually telling the person, when they say don't change, they're saying, yes, don't change anything about you. But I can't be happy, or I can't be with whoever the person you are. So yes, I'm thinking about you, and I don't want you to change, but that person who you are, I can't be with you. And maybe even another element of this song where the lyrics say that if you do feel lonely, I will come and see you. And all of a sudden, it becomes kind of a bit of gaslighting to simultaneously tell someone that you're thinking about them, that you think that who they are is beautiful, then to tell them that really isn't enough for you, that you can't be happy with that. But then to say that despite that, I will still be willing to spend time with you as long as it doesn't require commitment. So for years, when I finally heard the Todd Rundgren song, years after I'd heard the Groove Theory song, I thought this guy was kind of gaslighting whatever person he was singing the song about. But then I found out the history of the song, and it became a little deeper and even kind of a bit more tragic. So 2 years before he released a song with this group, Todd Rundgren, who I guess was about 18 at the time, he had his teenage love, this girl, I believe her name is Linda, who he'd went to school with. And a couple of times they hung out with groups of friends. A couple of times they'd made out, and he had a huge crush on her. And one day he goes over to her house, and he shows up, and he's got this long hair. And the year is 1966, and the young woman's father sees him with the long hair, and he happens to be out in the yard. And the young woman's father literally gets the hose and sprays him off, chases him off with the hose. And then a couple of days later, she tells him, I can't see you anymore, basically because her father didn't approve. So over the course of the summer, he's trying to deal with this. And the reason the long hair, by the way, came into play is because this is 1966, and having long hair at that time was considered a sign of rebellion. So anyway, he runs off and he, accepts it. So he's trying to deal with this heartbreak, and I think it may have been his first real heartbreak. And so to deal with it, he looks at it from her perspective of how she may have seen things, and almost like what he would have liked her to tell him in this circumstance, that she still cares about him, that she still wants to see him, and that she still thinks that who he is with his long hair and his kind of counterculture ways, that she would still accept him, but she's unable to see him. So even from that angle, it still becomes a pretty powerful love song, because it's someone who's dealing with their first heartbreak. And I think that's something that is universal. Sometimes our first heartbreak will be reciprocated. Sometimes our first heartbreak will be someone who we may never even get the nerve to speak to. But everyone, or almost everyone, is going to have that first heartbreak. And it's almost like the first time it's like you have to be inoculated to it, because it's going to always hurt, but that time it hurts the most. And I think it's interesting that even when he was dealing with his first heartbreak and he was looking at it sympathetically from her point of view, he still kind of saw the element of how he felt like he was being, I guess, and I'm going to use this word again, gaslit by it. He felt like it was two conflicting things there. So that's kind of why I think this is one of the most interesting and one of the greatest love songs of all time. One, because it's so layered, even though it kind of comes off as almost like this kind of, almost like a pop song, and that it really is a great song in essentially arguably four genres: psychedelic rock, soft rock, R&B, and neo soul. and in all of those genres, it's still a great song. So I'm going to include links to each version of those songs in the description. And if you can, watch them, or not watch them, but listen to them in that order and see if you pick up on the little nuances of it, or if you get a different interpretation of it. Anyway, thank you.